Good Friday morning, everyone. My name is Jim Wendler. This is Friday with Wendler. I am wholly unprepared right now. I just got home. So I got my S together. Luckily, I got some things done prior. Anyway, as always, if anyone is listening or watching, please let me know in the chat. Give me a thumbs up or some kind of message so that we know this is reading all. No, this is getting to the billions of people watching right now, right? So, as always, thank you, Tyler. I appreciate it, bud. As always, we start with. Well, first of all, we are now, I guess, 6-0 is the London Red Raiders. We played last Friday. It was, I don't know what the score, 47-0. Probably could have been a lot worse. Played absolutely amazing. So we are playing one of our big rivals today at their place. So it'll be interesting to see how we do. But we are looking solid so far. And let's start with the music, right? So we got two bands, an older, not old, but a little older and fairly new. So the first band, we're going to start the older band. And this band, one full length, they got a couple splits and stuff like that. But when I found this band, I was absolutely blown away. I got this when it came out in the year 2000. I bought it off, ironically, at an ISIS, Dillinger, and Kandera concert in Tucson. I bought it off Aaron Turner, right? Because this is on Hydra Head. Everyone knows Aaron is, owner of Hydra Head. So I actually talked to him. He asked me what I was looking for. I said, listen, I want something heavy and sludgy. And then he recommended this absolute beast of an album called, the band is called Cattlepress. The album is called Hordes to Abolish the Divine. All right, came out in 2000 on Hydra Head. It's got its roots deep in sludge, but to say that it's sludge is not giving it enough credit. It's got a little hardcore, maybe a little weirdness of mathcore, I guess. I don't know if that's the exact term I want to use. But I am telling you, the guitar tone and bass tone on this is unbelievable. It is 100% unique, nasty tones. And I'm telling you, they have a song called So Ripe. And about a minute 10 into that song, I guess, they bust out a groove of, they just move. And it's unbelievable. I showed it to my wife yesterday, and she was kind of laughing, like, that's that band? So, highly recommended. They're only full length. I think this is, and actually I quote this band in one of my books because they use a quote, or they use a sound sample from Enter the Dragon that really explains a lot about understanding training. I know it's weird, right? Cattlepress. But whatever, Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee. Cattlepress, Hordes to Abolish the Divine. I don't know if you can still get this on CD, but I'm sure it's on streaming or whatever the hell people use these days. Can't recommend that enough. Unbelievable album. The next one, this was sent to me, I think this week or last week by Brian. Thank you. He sent me a kind of a care package with a bunch of this. And I'm always suspect when people send me stuff because people like, hey, Jim, do you ever hear a band called the Megadeth? I don't know if you've ever heard of that band. I'm like, always good to laugh about. But anyway, so when people recommend stuff, I'm always kind of suspect because a lot of it to me has just been there, done that. This band is not. This band is called Knoll, and it's Knoll. They are from Tennessee. This was released in 2022. Okay, and the album is called, boy, I'm not going to say this right, Metempiric. It's in the description. So, but listen, this is 100% awesome. I mean, absolutely awesome. I think there's a little filler here and there, but they are a young band. But I mean, for the most part, I put this into my truck. That's where I listen to most of the music because I got a good sound system in there. Oh my God. So the best way I heard this described was, I think on their Bandcamp page, someone said, you got portal into my full of hell and you got full of hell into my portal. There you have their roots in death and grind, but I think it's so much more. I'd almost say it's got the atmosphere of like black metal without being black metal. And their songs are short. They're not these long drawn out songs for the most part. They use dissonance and as a way to set up the, I guess I want to say clean, but the non-dissonance, I don't know what the term is. They do it in this song. I can't remember what the name of the song is because I can't read it's very hard to read. I must have listened to that in my truck. It's probably a 30-second part a million times. I couldn't believe how awesome it was. Let's see here. But anyway, Cattlepress and the band Knoll, Knoll. They're from Tennessee, but they sound so much more. I totally blown away by that band. Thank you, Brian. Your care package and all the shit that you sent was awesome. And so thank you very much, man. Okay, let's get started with the questions. Before we start with, again, as always, guys, if you got a question, ask in the chat. Someone sent me a question on Instagram, and I will read this off. I will start here. Oh, my God. Oh. Climbed 74 flights of stairs yesterday as part of my training. Went back earlier today and did some more. My legs are... Anyway, all right, here we go. I can do the neck harness and neck flexion for multiple sets of 20 plus reps with a 45-pound plate. How do I progress further? More weight? Seems like adding more plate could be awkward to manage. Okay, so the neck harness, you can add as much weight as you want. I've done 100 pounds on there. So you can use a kettlebell, a dumbbell. You can obviously use plates. You know, I usually use 25s and 10s. And that's, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking with that. You can just use more weight. If your chain stinks, just go to Home Depot or Lowe's or local shop and get a little longer chain and some carabiners. I've done that a million times. I did that in high school. So that's easy. Now with neck flexion, usually I know EFS sold some kind of like plate, or I don't even know what to really call it, but you could stack plates on there, but I don't think you need to do that. The one thing I would tell you to do is with the neck flexion is, first thing is make sure you put that plate where it's the hardest on your head. So a lot of times people will put the plate and put it at the most advantageous, easy spot, and then like, oh, I could do 1,000,000 reps. Put it, the hole should be right on your forehead and it should feel very difficult. Number 2 is make sure you're getting the full range of motion. And number 3 is make sure they're nice, slow, and controlled reps. You're not just doing this. There's no point in doing that. The point is to strengthen the neck, not to do a lot of reps. The other thing is just to do more reps with the flexion. I usually tell the kids you should be able to get 50 or more reps, at least, or maximum 2 sets. So I like to do higher rep sets with that personally and with the people I work with. The final thing, and I do this, and I don't know if this is highly recommended, once you kind of get good with it and know where to put the plate, I would just do static holds. So you just lay on the bench, put the plate on there, bring it up, hold, and you keep your hands off the plate, but you just hold and statically hold there. Again, I'm not sure if you should do that, but that's what I do, and I feel like I get a lot out of that. So hope that helps. And just be careful about loading the neck harness, because I've told this story many times. I loaded it one time way too heavy, and it was not good. It was a horrible idea. One of the dumbest things I've done. I've done a couple dumb things in my life training. That was one of them. So be very wary of going too heavy too soon on the neck harness. All right, here we go. Ben Robert says, hey Jim, I am currently running Cryptea. Just started my 3rd cycle and started doing the 5 sets of 10 of supplemental. My chins have gone from body weight to 5 sets of 10 at 40, and my dips have gone from body weight to 5 sets of 10 at 55. I'm still a lot of room to go as I'm smoking these workouts. Is the plan to keep pushing the weight up, or should I increase the reps from 10 to maybe 12 to 15? Okay, there's a couple things here. One is you can go more reps. You should do sets of 20 or sets, whatever, 12, 15, you know what I'm saying? Lower the weight. You can go up in weight even heavier and do heavier sets of, especially on the chin-ups of, even 1 to 5 reps. On the dips, I would not advise that. I probably keep the reps over 8 if I'm going to be completely honest. And the other thing is when we do, because that's all we do the auto regulation of the Cryptea workout. How we do the supplemental will change from day to day. Sometimes it'll be sets of 5, sometimes sets of 10, sometimes sets of 8, sometimes it'll vary. And we usually at that point, we are looking to do what is correct for that time. And sometimes we will slow down the tempo of each rep. So we'll have a little lower or slower eccentric rep. At that point, all we're doing is building GPP, right? And then part of that, we will do a small block of just getting a huge pump, and we're just slowing down, trying to build muscle and just making something different. We will vary our grips quite a bit on the supplemental, especially when obviously not in the in the squat, but on the bench press we will do that. But there's all kinds of different things. You know, you can always work up, and that, you know, you have 10 sets to do, right? So if you have 2 workup sets after your main set, that means you're what is that, 5, 6, 7, so you got 3 sets to play with the supplemental. So there's a lot of variations in there. The goal is to build the body and to build into like a death missile of doom, right? So the key is I don't worry so much about the weight. I worry about how we're doing the workout, and the workout will take care of itself. Like the body will respond correctly. So there's a lot of variations in there. And again, you don't have to always improve. So for example, we will keep the chins and dips or whatever we're doing for that day fairly standard, and we will slow down the eccentric on the supplemental stuff and just kind of smoke using the main lift to kind of smoke everything. Or maybe we will just do 5 sets of 5 on the supplemental and push the chins and dips quite a bit. So there's a lot of variation in there. And don't be afraid to have some fun. The most important thing is you keep a good pace and you're training the entire body. That's the best way I can say it. And again, like when we do, I have to constantly coach this, when we do assistance work and, well, anything, each rep is coached perfectly. So you're not just like when you're dumbbell squatting, you're not just pumping up and down. You're coming up 1,000, holding all the way down, controlled, popping up fast and strong, hold 1,000. And it doesn't seem like much until you get to the 8th or 9th rep. You're like, holy shit, this set of 10 is a completely different animal. Again, the goal isn't to kill the kids. The goal is to build an incredible base. And for what we do with that is GPP. And I think that's super important. So I hope that helps, Ben. That is a very impressive work you're doing in there. You're doing good. You're doing very good. And don't be afraid to change exercises either. We usually do 3 different assistance movements during a 10 rep or 10 set Crypteo workout, and we'll use a lot of variety. I let the kids sometimes choose things if they want to try something different, and we will just work from there. So Tyler Drake says, you were right, Penn State is where QBs and my dreams go to die. Yeah, Penn State and Notre Dame, an absolute dumpster fire for quarterbacks, and it's a shame. I think James Franklin does a great job. I mean, he wins the games they're supposed to win. It's just hard to win the big game. And let's be honest, when you're playing Ohio State and Oregon and stuff like that, I mean, they're one step above. So I know a lot of people are unhappy with the coach, James Franklin at Penn State, but I told Mason maybe they're doing better than they ever would. And maybe if they get a new coach, you don't know this, maybe that they're overachieving. So I don't know, man. That game was amazing. And, you know, if they had won that game, there would be a completely different narrative. And going into OT, I watched that with my old man, and he said the same. We're looking at the game like, man, Oregon looks tired. I would be tired too, but they just made the plays when they're supposed to make the plays. So unbelievable. Okay, I messed up as usual. All right, here we go. Daniel Johansson says, and I'm not going to even attempt your middle name there, Daniel. So says, hey Jim, doing conjugate and having good results in my lower body list, but my upper body is losing size. My current bench PR is 110 kilograms. Should I focus on building muscle mass instead? Well, you can do, that's part of the concurrent training, right? That's part of the conjugate training or concurrent training, is building multiple abilities at once or raising multiple abilities at once. I don't know if you understand that. It's not about doing box squats and chains and all that shit. It is about raising multiple abilities. And one of them, again, is mass. And I've said this, and I'm not the only one to say this. You got to build. If you want to increase your bench and press and all that shit, you got to look like you actually lift weights. So you should already be focusing on building muscle mass, because that is, again, a third of the concurrent training, right? Speed, strength, and muscle mass, the repetition method. So if you're losing size, you're not doing conjugate training. You're not doing it correctly. So yes, you should be focusing on building muscle mass, but you should have already been focusing on building muscle mass. I don't know if that makes sense, or if you understand what conjugate training really is, or concurrent training technically. So yeah, you should already been doing that. You should be doing that for your lower body too. It's, that is a key thing to getting stronger, is building muscle mass. And everyone wants to poo-poo that and say, strength is all neural. Well, that's great, but you got to put on you can't have a chicken wing hanging out of your back. You can't have a tiny chest and tiny shoulders and little arms and tiny thighs and ass. Like, you got to build those parts, and it takes time, man. Building muscle mass takes time, and I've said this a million times for young athletes. That's why consistency is so important when training, and this goes for obviously anyone, but our goal of training is to build the athlete, but we're just trying to put muscle mass on them, and when we do that, we get stronger. That's all it comes down to. So how you do that is up to you. But Daniel, you should have already been doing that, and you got to bodybuild the upper body, man. You got to look like a dude, and that doesn't mean you have to do a different training system. It means you're not doing the current one correctly. That's the best way I can say it. Do Young Hang says, good day, Mr. Wendler. Well, good day to you. Regarding 5-1 for hard gainers, 1, what can I do if I don't have a sled or prowler? All right. Well, just do any kind of hard conditioning, anything. And really, I'll tell you what, you can do any kind of conditioning. So if that means riding a bike, going for a walk, running hills, just going out for a run, anything like that, I think any conditioning will do. Let's just put it that way. I'm just a huge fan of the sled and prowler because it kind of takes it's easy to do, doesn't make you sore, and anyone can kind of do it, whether you're super advanced or not very advanced at all. You're a beginner. So number 2, which day should I include a dumb leg work, or do you not recommend doing extra leg work? I'd have to look at that training, but I would just do the program as it is, if I'm going to be honest. If you want to do some dumb leg work, I would do it on the last day you train before the weekend, and just understand you're going to be sore, and it's going to kick your ass a little bit. Just please understand that, guys. You're not going to make progress in lifting weights and training, no matter what program you choose, without being a little bit miserable. That's part of the process of getting bigger and stronger. So just please understand that I've done it a million times where you do something stupid on Friday, and like Monday rolls around and you're still super sore, and you just got to bite the bullet a little bit. That doesn't mean you should feel that sore all the time every day, but just I think people get a weird thing. Now again, the goal is not to get sore, but you're not going to train the way that you need to and not to get sore sometimes. So just please understand that. But if I was going to do something, like when we do something really dumb with the kids I work with, we usually do it on a day that they got a couple days rest. So like on a Friday, they'll have Saturday and Sunday off, and they'll at least not have to deal with with me anymore. So if you're going to do it, I would do it on that day, even if it's like a bench day or something like that. Just go ahead and do it. You'll be fine. John Laurio says, hey, Jim, thanks for keeping these going. Well, I appreciate that, John. Wanted to get your thoughts on training the day before and or after a game day. Can the intensity impact performance or recovery? Yes, 100%. So there is a common thing, and this is what I was told from my time I was a kid, first learning, is when you're in season, whatever sport that is, you should always train the hardest day the day after you play. So if you play on Friday night, you would lift the hardest, do your harder work on Saturday. The problem is, man, a lot of our kids play both ways. It's super hot, but they walk in on Saturday morning, they look like they just got hit by a train, and they're not going to be able to do anything. And I tried it like a motherfucker when I was in high school, because that's what I was told to do. And I remember like my hands couldn't like grab anything. My knee was all bloated. Like I had like all these helmet marks on my ribs. I felt like I was bruised up beyond belief. And I'm like, there's no way I can, like, how am I supposed to squat? Like, I guess I can squat as hard as I could, but it was not going to do anything. So I don't know if after the game, that you'd be able to do your hardest workout, like your hardest squat or trap bar or whatever. The reason, again, for that is because it's farthest away from the next contest. I have found that we can do that on Mondays, so the kids play on Friday. They have Saturday and Sunday off, and Monday they come in, and they're almost always ready to go within reason. And that's when we do our hard trap bar day. Now, what we say before the game, I think you can train prior to the game. Like if you're going to train on Thursday, it would just have to be well regulated that they're not doing anything that's going to affect on Friday. And I know that's like a really shitty out for me to take. But I also think, John, that a lot of that has to do with how you train in the off season. I could easily train our kids on Thursday and they'd be fine on Friday because I would just back everything off. I would watch each and every kid and just make sure they're not doing anything dumb. But they also have years and years of training hard Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and they're consistently do it. So their body is completely used to training like an absolute animal. So even if we just, like our trap bar, for example, might be one set at our top weight for 3 reps. To them, that's easy because we're doing so much work and then do a little bit of assistance. So I don't know if I'm making sense, John, but I honestly, this sounds really, I don't know, maybe not what everyone wants to hear, but like I have a formula that works. I'll be honest, I'm terrified to change that formula. I really am, because we've won a lot of games. We haven't lost a conference game in like 4 years. So like, and we make it to the playoffs, made it to the Final Four. Like something we're doing is right. So John, if you're having success, and this, I know like you can't stay the same, and I don't stay the same, but you don't need to make massive changes if you're doing pretty well. And I'll be honest, if you train, for example, John, before the game, I'm just talking football here. I don't think it's going to make or break you. I mean, how is it? It's not going to make you, but it might break you. Now, if you've got a basketball team, for example, or a volleyball team or baseball team, they have multiple games throughout the year. You got to train through that shit, and that's just making smart decisions as a coach, and you have to communicate with the athlete, and the athlete has to be like invested, like, listen, if I can push and be okay, I have to learn how to do that, and that's also hard to get. So big difference, I should say, between football and like basketball or baseball, where you got a ton of games throughout the week. But I think especially early on, you got to train through that and just be smart as a coach. Listen, if you never train, if you had to be fresh for every single game, you never practice, you never lift. And that's not smart. That's why all these kids in club sports, why they have so many fucking injuries, is because they never address the GPP ever. And it drives me nuts. And that's, to me, honestly, besides either ignorance or stupidity from the parents, you choose which one. I think it's just shitty fucking coaching. I really do. It's shitty coaching. There's no way around that, because if your sport coach doesn't understand the importance of GPP, he needs to be kicked in the nuts and then fucking sped bag on his nuts. All nut trauma. So I hope that helps, though. I could talk all day on that shit. Oh, Jesus. So I'm going to say Peter, but I'm probably not Peter, because it's got 2 T's. And Hjalmarsson. Oh, my God. Hjalmarsson. All right, I'll just pretend that's correct. He says, hello, I have heard you talk about lowering or maintaining the training max and pushing the assistance to drive progress in the lift. How could I apply this approach to the squat and overhead press while running boring but big? Well, you really wouldn't, because the boring but big is supplemental work. And when you have a high amount of supplemental work, right, your assistance will lower. So that's just the formula I use personally. So when we have a high amount of, doesn't mean you don't do any assistance, but when you start pushing the assistance harder, the supplemental must go down quite a bit. So the answer is you wouldn't apply that approach. I hope I'm making sense. Now, the one thing you could do with your boring but big work and your main work, and this is what I would personally do 100% of the time, the days you squat, let's say, so you got your sets of squat, right? Your main lift, and then you have your 5 sets of 10. With your main lift, I would be doing some kind of assistance work in between, right? Supersetting. And then with your 5 sets of 10, I would be doing assistance work too in between every single set of 10. If not, I think you're just wasting time. So what would you do? So on the bench day, for example, when you're working up, your main lift, I would do some kind of row or some kind of pull up or some lat work or some kind of pull work, curls, something like that. With your 5 sets of 10 work, I would probably, depends on how you do it, but I would do some kind of lower body work, back raises, or ab wheel or dumbbell squat or lunges or something like that. On the days you're squatting and deadlifting, you could also do some kind of pulling movement with your main sets. With the deadlift, I don't know if I would do that, but whatever. You could do some kind of pushing or pressing movement. So for example, if you're doing deadlifts, I probably obviously wouldn't do rows. I've done pull-ups in between, but you got to be kind of in condition for that. But you do dips or push-ups or dumbbell bench, and then between the 5 sets of 10, you can pick some easier upper body work, or so like tricep push downs or curls or something like that. Probably wouldn't choose curls in the deadlift. Man, the deadlift really screws up. So that's what I would probably, if you really want to push the assistance, that's what I would do. I would have done it anyway, I'll be completely honest. And just make sure, the other thing is, what I would do too is when you're doing your 5 sets of 10 and your assistance work and your main lift and assistance work, keep a good timer on and just see where you are. I believe you should be able to do a set every 90 seconds. If you get to that point and all your reps are solid, I think you're in pretty good shape, and you will get stronger even if the weights that you're using during the training aren't terribly impressive, because I'm not worried about pushing the weights during training so much as I'm looking to get your body just in an awesome GPP kick-ass shape, if that makes sense. So, but if you don't know what to do, what I usually tell people is, or if you don't have access, is you could just do a lot of body weight work in between your main lifts. And that would be, squats, lunges, ab wheel, leg raises, push-ups, dips, chin-ups, stuff like that. That way you don't need anything terribly special. So I hope that helps, man. But just remember, when you really start pushing the assistance, the supplemental, like in a general way, the supplemental will come down. And you may have to start doing sets of 5 on the boring but big, which means it's no longer boring but big, when you start pushing the assistance. And then once your body gets used to that, you can start maybe getting sets of 8 for a couple sets, and then sets of 5, and then eventually working up to sets of 10. So, all right. Paul Holk says, how quickly do you go back to your regular training when you transition athletes? Transition in season, off season with your athletes? Do you deload and drop the maxes low, or is there a cycle before you hammer down? Well, we just go right into training because we never really stop. We're always, obviously our volume will come down on the main lifts, right? Especially because we don't squat. So, but on our trap bar, the volume of our main lifts will go down, but we're still touching heavy weights. So we don't have any really phase or anything. We just go right into it. And because obviously they're not running as much and they don't have the trauma, so to speak, of the of games and practice, they're ready to go. So I don't know if that makes sense, but there's no, we don't go through a transition period because we're always in shape and we're always training hard, always. All right. Now, training hard, obviously, in the in season is very different than the off season, but we're still training hard. So I don't think at that age do you need these ridiculous, I need a power thing and I need a conditioning type. Man, we're fucking always in shape. We're always training to put on muscle. And generally speaking, we're always touching something fairly heavy for them. All right, as long as they're able to do so. So they never lose that ability. Just like when you are in the off season, we're always doing sprint training, or we're always doing jump training, or we never not do something, because if you take that out of your training, you have to adjust to get it back in there. And I think that's wasting amazing amounts of time, because it doesn't take a lot to maintain certain abilities. All right. I don't know if hopefully that makes sense. So we're always doing hypertrophy work. We're always doing strength work. We always do some kind of jumping, whether it's in season or off season. That's just the way it goes. Now, obviously things go up and down, right? Based on the athlete, based on what they need, what they can do. And it doesn't have to happen every single week, but it's not like we go 8 weeks without touching anything heavy. That's stupid. You're going to lose whatever you had, and that's done. Just like when you're in the off season, it's, what are you not going to sprint? Of course you're going to sprint. Are you going to don't get out of condition, but it doesn't take a lot to maintain those abilities. So just Please remember that, Paul. I appreciate it. All right, I don't know what this is. A totally different language, so I'm not going to touch this one. It says, hey, Jim, you recommend doing the main set and then 3 assistants, push, pull, legs, or core. Okay, but the problem is I'm interested in training some muscles like forearms and grip. So I can't do this in 3 assistants work only. All right, well then just add it in. Nope, it doesn't have to be like that. So if you want to add that in, just go ahead and do it, brother. You're going to be fine. Listen, I'm just giving you a template to work in. If you want to try some different stuff and throw some shit in, by all means, go ahead and do it. So I hope that helps. Yeah, don't think so much. If you want to do something, do something. Training's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be addressing the things that you want to. Obviously, you need to work hard, be consistent, all that shit. And sometimes, obviously, you're going to have to do things you don't want to do, but it shouldn't be at the expense of some of the stuff that you want to do. So I hope that helps. And again, I don't know what your name is. It's just, to me, it looks like a bunch of lines there, so I apologize. So go ahead and do it, brother. John Lario says, it's criminal that you don't listen to Fugazi or Fugazi. I've mentioned them every time I've communicated with you over the years. Most principled, ethical band with the greatest rhythm section. Yeah, just never could get into them. I have their repeater, I think, on cassette somewhere in my house. I don't know. Ian McKay, like I know he was in Minor Threat and all that, and I should worship him, but just not my style. I'm not a huge fan of punk. The only really, I guess, punk band I listen to is the Misfits. And my favorite Misfits album is probably the least punk of them all. So, and that's Earth AD. Oh, is that Untouchable? Just ripping. So, but yeah, just not my style of music. Never could get into them. So, but that's why there's different bands and there's different fan bases. So, Alan Arajo says, good morning, Jim. You once suggested doing 50 total reps for overhead press at last set. Would be a way to progress until I reach 225. What another strategies would you recommend for the other main lifts? I'm not sure I understand what you're asking, Alan. You just do the other main lifts as you normally would. I think that's what you're asking. It's not going to necessarily get you to 225. It's just going to do something different with your press. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. Yeah, you would just do whatever you usually do and what drives your other lifts. So listen, I'm going to tell you this, guys. I have said this a million times before. Everyone like nitpicks the 50 reps or this, or I got to do this. Listen, the most important thing is how you do something. It's not what you do. It's not always what you do. And I've said this to our kids a million times. Every single school in the world does this exact same thing we do. We do some kind of squat and some kind of push. We do some kind of pull. Generally, you guys know what I'm saying. I'm like, well, my school did it. Well, fuck, you guys know what I'm talking about. I know a school that didn't do that. Bottom line is, generally, sports do all the general basic lifting, right? Or they should be doing. And that's probably part of it too, because it's how you do something. So are you consistent? Are you training throughout the entire year? Are you given listen, kids are looking a little weird today. Let's not, or I don't want to coach today. There's no excuse. You come in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whether you like to or not, and you get the work done. That's number one. Number two, how are you doing those lifts? Are you just doing the bench like this, or is every rep like this? All right. Is your ass 50 feet off the bench? Is your squat 60 feet tall? Are you cutting your sets? Coach said I have to do 8, but I'm just going to do 2. Screw it. All that stuff adds up and it means something. And again, I believe that, people have said this, when they say, what are you guys doing? I show them what we're doing. There's there's no way that's all you guys do. No, but we're doing everything right all the time. And that's one of the things I say over and over again. That's what's going to separate us. We do everything right all the time, everything perfect all the time. And when you have those standards, magically things work themselves out. And that goes for everything else that you do. Now, I don't want you to get overcritical, nitpicking to the last degree, but it's the major things you need to get are you going to sleep every night at the same time, well before midnight? Are you getting all the foods that you need? And you got to do it all the time. People like, I eat a lot. You hear this all the time. I can't gain weight. Fuck, how many months have you gone 100%? All the time, every time. Well, it's different. I was on vacation. Fuck, who gives a shit? You go on vacation, you find ways to get stuff done. And listen, I used to be insane about vacations. I would obviously want to enjoy the vacation, but I'd wake up early and make sure I get everything done. I'm a little older now. I just kind of take that time off. But I found ways to get shit done, and that's just the way it goes. Even when I was traveling, when I was in high school, or when I was starting to lift, my parents, when we'd go on vacation, always made sure I found a place to train, or I figured out something to do. It might have been running in the sand. I would just go out there for an hour and do sprints in the sand. There's always stuff you can do, and there's stuff you can do, and you can always do it to a high standard. So, anyway. Isaiah Fernandez says, hey Jim, I'm having a great time running Boing But Big Forever. Hit 265 for 12 on the deadlift. Very good this morning, in the morning too, with reps in the tank. For the Boing But Big 3-month challenge, should I do a deload week or a training max the week before I start? I don't think so, unless you need it. Unless you need like a short deload to kind of collect yourself and get everything kind of situated. But if you're gonna do the 3-month challenge, make sure you're eating well, because it's gonna blow. And people have complained that it's too tough. Well, it's a challenge. That's the way challenges are. They suck. God, there hasn't been a challenge I have done, with all this stupid shit I do, that has been remotely what I would consider fun outside of what, it's just been miserable. I mean, miserable. When I did my 12-mile ruck, oh my God, was it miserable. And I loved every second of it in a sick, twisted way. But if you I wouldn't have chosen to be sitting on the couch, but that's a much better option. Let's put it that way. So just understand, challenges are supposed to be challenges. They're supposed to blow. They're supposed to challenge you physically and mentally. So speaking of which, here we go. Ryan Stack says, hey, this Saturday's challenge, oh my God, a 2-mile belted sled drag with 90 pounds. Stay frosty and have a great weekend, brother. I'm going to tell you this, Ryan, you're going to be fine. I've done, several of those kind of dumb things with the sled. And I don't know how much your sled weighs. I guess that kind of changed, but you'll be fine. It's just going to be a matter of chipping away at the boulder, so to speak. You got a little, hammer, and you're just hitting the boulder. It's going to crack eventually. You'll be fine, but enjoy it, man. Man, I love doing prowler and sled stuff with my son and with Zach Jones, who we have an absolute blast because it becomes a big shit-talking thing about who looks worse. And I've said this before, I've talked about this. Zach and I did this past summer, we did 2 really horrible challenges. And maybe a month or so after we had finished, I had some neighbors see me in the grocery store or wherever they were and said, hey, I saw you and Zach pushing the sled. I was like, oh, yeah, because we had done it many times. And they're like, yeah, you guys didn't look good. I was like, because Zach's laying in someone's yard just puking his guts out. It's horrible. That kid loves to puke after prowler. And I make fun of him all the time. That's what you're supposed to do, man. Listen, I know I'm his coach, I'm his elder, but that doesn't mean he doesn't say shit to me and I don't bring it right back to him. So that's why we work so well together. Mailman James says, hey, I've been running first set last and doing 5 sets of 8 on week 1 and 2 and 5 sets of 5 on week 3 when it gets a little heavier. Should I try to push it to 5 sets of 8 on all weeks, or is that enough stimulus? Listen, Mailman, I'm going to tell you this. If you feel good on a week 3, go ahead and try it. If not, just keep to what you're doing. All right. And maybe on one of those weeks, if you want to do sets of 10 until you can't do it, and then you go back to sets of 8 or 5, go ahead and do it. Don't be afraid to change things up a little bit if you feel good. All right. You don't run yourself into the ground and feel like ass all the time and die or anything like that. But if you feel good on that week 3, and you're like, dude, I know I can get it, go ahead and try it, man. If you don't, dude, I'll be lucky to get 2 sets of 8 and then I'll be getting sets of 3. Don't do it. Stick with the sets of 5. You'll be fine. But take advantage, Mailman James, the days and weeks that you feel good and just run with it. All right. And just run with it. But at the same point, if you feel like dookie hole, acknowledge it and just do what you can do and then move on. That's the best way I can tell you. All right. The Grand Fromage. Says, what's up, J-Dubs? Someday I'll tell you my J-Dubs theory, or story, not theory. I do Romanian deadlifts, but I don't do any hamstring movement involving knee flexion. Do you think hill sprints would be enough to stop that from becoming an area of concern injury-wise? I don't think hill sprints do a ton of hamstring work, I'll be completely honest. Maybe they do. Listen, I would have said 10 years ago, like, listen, you need to do this or you need to do that for your hamstrings. But we have done great things without doing a ton of direct hamstring work. And we've never had an issue, ever. Ever. Right? So I think there is maybe something to us always running year round, which I think probably contributes because a lot of times that's when you tear your hamstring. We do our squats to depth and we do our dumbbell squats to depth. So I think that has something to do with it. I don't know. I think that injury stuff is a little overblown. I think some people can pull hamstrings, but I think it's bigger than because you didn't do glute ham raises. I really do. I think there's more to it than having a 60-40 ratio or whatever the hell people were saying. I think there's other factors in there because we've never had like a hamstring injury. And according to all the data that I've ever learned, we should have nothing but hamstring injuries. So, listen, I don't know the answer to that. I think if you're doing Romanian deadlifts, you're going to be fine. I don't think you're going to have an issue. But just remember, again, if you, for example, haven't sprinted in 6 months and then start the sprint, yeah, you're probably going to get hurt because you haven't maintained that ability. So just please understand what I'm saying. And again, a lot of this shit is overblown, guys. It was like a weird kick in the ass when I sat down and started thinking about all the stuff that I've done and the people I've coached and worked with and all the so-called rules that were put into place. And it's like, well, none of this shit matters. And it was like, oh my God, these were the sacred cows of the lifting world. Man, listen, there's the real world and then there's like the academic world, and those couldn't be couldn't be a bigger chasm between those two, just like the real world and social media. So, man, let everyone else do whatever. I'm done. I just don't care anymore. You can tell I'm fucking gotten old. I just don't. If you want to go do that, fucking do it. Who gives a shit? And then we'll just keep to ourselves. Go ahead and do your weird. This helps my shoulders. Stop karate chopping like this. You gotta do your side raises. Oh my God. Imagine coaching a side raise. Like so anal. All right. The Pro says, I've been running 5 times and lifting twice for the last couple of weeks. So you're lifting twice, running 5 times a week. Okay. Whew. Going great so far, although I certainly see myself running 5s Pro for a couple months when I get around intermediate level. Yep. Yeah. Listen, the other thing, Pro, is just be wary of the lower body volume until your body adapts. That's the other thing I would probably say. And I'm a huge fan of box squats if you're doing a lot of like running or stuff like that, because I think you recover much easier from them. And I would do those a parallel at the very lowest and like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 inches above. I think that's awesome. Zooman says, thoughts on Iron Maiden. I've grown to like Iron Maiden quite a bit. When I was a kid, like many of you guys, I would go into the record stores or whatever, and I would see the record covers. And, Number of the Beast is one of the best album covers of all time. I remember seeing that when I was a kid. Like, oh my God, these guys got to sound like fucking, like what I thought like it should sound. And then it's good. They're tremendous musicians. I think they write terrific songs, but as a kid, it's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear gruff vocals. I want to hear, and instead I got something completely different. So I think they're legendary. I think they're, like I said, the musicianship, the songwriting is through the roof. But just as a kid, what they presented to me on the cover, just like when you see Kiss for the first time and then you hear Kiss, boy, what a disappointment. Oh my God. Oh, talking about rocking and rolling all night and you're dressed like in that crazy kabuki makeup and they're dancing around. And then they did, what was that album that they did that was all disco music? Oh, it's fucking horrible. Listen, I'm sure Kiss was awesome in the late 70s. You know, it's probably fun, but if you don't think that they're 100% in it for the money, which I'm not, listen, that's fine. Make money off your talent, and your parents or your kids and everyone else is taken care of, but it seemed very strange to me. All right, oh, here's Caleb Sellers, my boy, Mr. Mostly Quads. I just hit 360 on my last max effort day. Pec feels good. He tore his pec. Sitting around 239. Woo! The only thing I do notice on my compound lift is the upper back and lower back is still a tad stiff at the top. Yeah, you might have to do some upper back, not lifting stuff, but maybe some movement stuff to open that up. You can look up some thoracic mobility stuff, and it doesn't have to. Probably do it once a day for 5 or 7 days, Caleb, and you'd probably feel better. And generally speaking, it's hard with the lower back to see, but a lot of that is hip mobility. So maybe a little bit of hip mobility stuff once a day or something would probably help. Just look up 90-90s and shin boxes. I think that would probably help you quite a bit. Try to keep your hands off the ground. I think that would help. And then again, the thoracic mobility. There's 1 or 2 exercises I think you could probably do that might take care of that. But that's an amazing bench, dude. 360s, no joke. No joke. Zach says, hey, I work with DJ Jones. I talked to DJ quite a bit, but I just talked to him. Whatever. We're friends with the family. My wife is really good friends with his wife. And obviously I know his sons. That's awesome. He is a great dude. And boy, both him and his wife have done a tremendous job raising 3 great boys. That's at the end of the day, that's your legacy, right? The quality of your kids. And there's not, they got 3 boys, and I'm telling you, some of the best kids I've ever met in my life. And an incredibly talented family. So that's awesome, Zach. DJ always makes me feel so short. DJ is fucking tall, dude. Tall dude. I always like when he talks to me, he leans over at the fence at the football games. I feel much easier. Feel much more at ease that he's not going to pound me into the ground. Isaiah Fernandez says, thanks, Jim. I'll let you know how my progress goes after 3 months. All right, man. Just enjoy. Zoo Man says, hey, I smashed a new 10 rep PR today at 375. That is no joke. Oh, that's tough. Man, and it's going to be different for everyone, but man, the deadlift, when you start hitting some of those higher reps at heavy for you, whatever that would be, it starts, and I'll be honest, like there was a time when I could get, I'll give you an example, I could do probably 525 for 12, 550 for 10, 565 for 10, could never get anything above it. Now you got 585 for 9. I could never get a 10th rep. It was just so tiring on the body. So congratulations, you, man. That's good work, man. Okay, here's more, Caleb. So what he says is a tad stiff at the top of my lift, if that makes any sense. Yeah, so such as locking in rear delts and lats on the squat and deadlift, lower posterior chain on the bench. Yes. So, Caleb, I didn't see the second part of your question, but the same shit applies. And the other thing, especially for your upper back, like locking in with your rear delts and lats on the squat and deadlift, the other thing you have to understand is if you can lock in, that's a huge faux pas there. If you can lock in your upper back, at 225, on the squat and deadlift or whatever, something light. But when it gets heavier, that's when you can't lock it in. That's again, might be a mobility thing. But the other thing I would say is it's a strength thing, and you have to get stronger in those areas. I would probably... recommend single arm dumbbell rows and drive that up if you can. So you are 239. So that's 240. So you should be able to do half your body weight with that. That's 120 single arm row. If you can't get 35 reps, I think you need to get that going on this, this one arm dumbbell row. Again, not super strict. Lift like you fucking played football. Like you're aggressive. And just if you're not there, I think that's something you probably need to bring up. And that might help you lock in and hold it there. So I think much of it might be a mobility thing, and the stuff with your squat and deadlift is if you can lock that in at a lighter weight, then it might be a strength thing, and you need to address that with that exercise and that being the standard. Plus, it's going to help your grip. I know you got small hands like I do, so I hope that helps, brother. If not, come to a game and yell at me on the sideline before the game starts. I know you're busy, but all right, Jeremiah Plunkett. I hope that helps, Caleb. But just, I don't know. I don't know if you have my number or not. If maybe you got, whatever, get my number from someone or whatever, or just stop on by and knock on my door. Dude, we had one of my ex-players stop by on Sunday. Caleb, if you're still listening, Bricker stopped by. And Bricker's one of the best kids I've ever worked with. Tremendous human being. And he ended up being a Division III All-American in football, 4.0 student, unbelievable student. He's working in the finance world in New York City and Manhattan. That's where he lives now. So you can imagine the amount of work that kid's done. But he decided, for whatever reason, to bike from Cleveland to Cincinnati in one shot, 22 hours, 300 and some odd miles. So he stops by, knocks on the door. We talk. We're in. He tells me what he did. I'm like, well, when'd you leave? And he's like, Friday. I'm like, well, Friday? When'd you get done? Friday. Unbelievable. So, all right, here we go. Jeremiah Plunkett says, good morning, boss. Question regarding the press. Do you prefer the hip bounce when pressing or a more strict press? Just curious of your opinion. I don't teach that with the kids because it would just be more confusing and it would screw things up. If you want to do it, though, I don't see any reason not to. I think the only issue I have is I can see that becoming more important than what the goal of the press is. And for me, the goal of the press is obviously you want to get stronger. It's just to put on as much muscle on the body as possible. So there is a big difference between those two. I don't know if you subscribe to that theory. We do the press to just get massive shoulders, which obviously is going to help our bench and help everything else out. But I'm not going to always look for shortcuts to teach the kids. Now, of course, we'll make sure your technique is solid and all that other stuff. But I'm not going to introduce that, especially with kids who can barely press a barbell, which we have plenty of. So I don't know. You take that for what it's worth, Jeremiah. I don't think either one's bad or good, so to speak. It's just my goal for the press doesn't need to include that. So there you go. Tom Jones. I am running 531 with Boring But Big. I am going on vacation in the middle of a cycle with no lifting opportunities. Would it be better to start the next cycle when I get back, or can I take the week of in the middle of the cycle? Just start the cycle over again wherever you are, or whatever. I don't think it matters. Even if you're going on vacation and if you want to do something on vacation, I'm not saying you have to lift, because I totally get not doing that. But if you just hit 200 squats, 100 push-ups, and like some leg raises or some crunches or something every single day. Take you 30 minutes, you'd be good to go. Get a little pump, get your body going, and I think you probably feel better, but whatever. Not gonna tell you what to do and what not to do, but just pick it up. I don't think you're gonna make a wrong decision, Tom. Let's just put it that way. So you can either start where you are in this cycle. Personally, I would start with your 3x5 week again. Get your body used to it. I don't know how much drinking and fucking around you're going to be doing on that, so I guess that would come into play too. So, but personally, I'd probably start at the 3x5 week again. There you go. I'll just make that. There we go. Bill Coyne says, thoughts on Persum? Do you mean Bursum? I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean. Thoughts on, so I guess you're going to say Burzum, right? The band or the one-man band. I think listen, if you're not around in the early 90s, mid 90s, then it's hard to understand the impact that Varg had. Obviously, he had a huge impact on other stuff, right? But his music, especially if you're around back then, was unbelievable. So, yeah, you can't deny it, man. Just like if you don't like Mayhem or you don't like Emperor or something like that, you can't deny that they're amazing. Just amazing. So, Boss Man from South Texas, tweaked my low back while still recovering from quad rupture. Suggestions on abs and core and low back work. I'm 5'7", 260 and working on lowering my weight. Well, if you tweaked, I don't know what tweaking your lower back means. I would find movements that you can do, and generally that would be body weight style movements or less stressful stuff, even like a bird dog or reverse hypers with your body weight, back raises, 45-degree back raises. Ab work, I don't know. Again, some ab work might be stressful, obviously like an ab wheel or something like that. I think just laying on the ground and doing like the McGill sit-up thing, as long as you're bracing and doing that, I think would be good. I think doing any kind of super, how do I put this? Intensive plank, I think, as long as that doesn't hurt your back, I think planks can be very good for conditioning. Side plank and all that stuff. As long as you're doing it and not just doing the exercise, really focusing on sucking in and getting that tension in there instead of just doing it to do it. Like, you got to do it with meaning. So I think those things would probably help you out the most. And again, you said he's 57, not 5'7", and 260. Yeah, and just the more you can lower your weight, the better off your back's going to feel. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Neil says, DJ, talking about DJ Jones, was a great tight end at Ohio State. Yeah, he was. He was. You never know. He never talks about that, at least not to me or anyone I know. So he's very humble about it, too. So here we go. Isaiah Fernandez says, can the Cryptea program be done for all cycles on a 2-day per week basis? I don't know what that means. For all cycles. I mean, you can train twice a week. Yeah, just do squat one day, bench the next day, the other day. And then the next week you do deadlift. And then I would probably do press or bench, whatever you want to do. Yeah. Yeah, you could do Cryptea twice a week. Yes, if that's what you're saying. Bill Point says, not Burzum, Purzum. I have no idea what Purzum is. I know what Burzum is. No idea. Never heard of it. I assume it's a band. I don't know, maybe not. What is that, like cat metal? I can't stand that shit. So if that's like some kind of like joke, I don't like that stuff. It's just ridiculous. I don't mind having a little tongue-in-cheek like Typo Negative did, but I don't know. Seems like a giant waste of time to me. Yaoshin Lu says, do you have to deal with a lot of kids' behavior issues as a coach? The answer is no. Do you have any advice in managing that? I'm thinking of going into teaching secondary school biology. Thank you. I don't, because, football kind of weeds stuff out, and then if the head coach and the other coaches generally deal with all that stuff. And the kids kind of weed themselves out. They're not willing to show up and do that, then they're gone anyway. And the kids that show up, I don't know if it's just because of that filtering system or where I am. The kids always, for the most part, 99% of the time, have great attitudes and they're willing to work. You still got to kick them in the ass. So my only advice in managing that is from the get-go, have high standards and make sure that kids meet expectations. Kids generally will, even if they don't say they do, they want to be held accountable. They want to have high standards. They want to reach those standards. So as long as you keep those standards high, and again, it doesn't have to be ridiculous, but listen, it shouldn't be asking anything to be on time, be ready, have your homework done. All that shit should already be done. I don't think that's expecting anything. Anyone, and if it is, then your standards suck and you're a loser. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying that shit. Listen, we have a rule like you wear school colors and you make sure you're dressed appropriately. You have the right shoes on and no wrist what do you call it, like bracelets or anything like that, or necklaces. It's not asking a lot. Like, we have a standard here, and you go to reach it, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So that would be my only advice. How you do that, I don't know, because working with the general public is much different than working with like a football team that's voluntary and that the kids actually want to work hard and do stuff. So it's a completely different animal, and I understand that. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't have standards, and that you shouldn't have expectations and consequences for not meeting those standards. So kids generally do better with that, as parents, as teachers, as coaches. So, all right. I can do weighted push-ups with 100 pounds for 5, but my bench is a lot weaker than expected. Why? I have no idea. Because your bench press is weaker than your push-ups? There's not a carryover to that stuff. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. So, and then I have to see you do the push-ups too. And I don't know. So I don't know. That's just how you're built. That's the way it goes. I hear that all the time. Hey, my deadlift is this and my squat is this. Why? Because that's how you squat and deadlift. Who cares why? Just work to get everything up and go, and don't worry about that stuff. So I don't know. That stuff is, to me, is you're worrying about the price of cheese in Denmark. Doesn't matter. Let's just go ahead and fucking work. Boss, what are we looking here? Okay, here we go. What is the shortest and longest amount of time you'd have for rest between work sets at London? It depends on what exercise we're doing. So it depends on the loading. I don't know. Probably 30 seconds for some assistance work, and maybe 2.5 minutes for the main lift. So I guess that's probably about right. The smallest number and biggest number of total sets you'd have for a main lift. Smallest number would probably be 5. The biggest number would probably be 10. So there you go. That was easy. Caleb says he's got another question. He says, working towards a 600-pound squat in the next meet, should I stick to a more narrow base or wider base? I feel the load is more manageable. Hold on. In a slightly narrow base, but my range of motion is better when it's wider. If I were you, Caleb, I would stick to the slightly narrower base, just because I know how you're built, and build up that midsection. So when you come down, you got those fucking giant ass and thighs, man, you bounce out of the bottom. That's what I would probably do. And just make sure your range of motion, you can work on that. Okay, I hope that, but you're not built to squat wide, Caleb. Let's just put it that way. You're just not built. You got huge, Caleb played football at London. His thighs are about this big each, and huge ass, and built low to the ground. It was miserable in the third and fourth quarter for anyone that tried to tackle him. And his younger brother, who played his last year, was built exactly the same way and had about the same thigh size. So yeah, bring your stance in, load that up, and just make sure your abs and low back, because I'm sure you're super explosive. This is super important. When you're coming down, Caleb, or anyone who's squatting who's explosive, that ab and low back has to be so strong to maintain that good body position, because when you're coming out, it is so explosive. And if you've got a weak body or weak midsection, it's going to start moving like this because of the explosive nature. So just make sure you take care of that and just get as strong as you can with your legs and ass. And I think you'll be good to go. Let's see here. Holako says, good day, boss. What should I do about hamstring overuse? I squat low bar and my hamstrings always feel like mesh. Always sore, and I couldn't hit my PR on deadlift last week on the cycle. Should I remove hypers and RDLs completely? Yeah, just see what happens. See what happens. I'm always curious though, because when I think about low bar, what I see people say they do low bar, to me that's not low bar. That's just normal squatting. I don't know. Maybe my version of low bar is much different. So yeah, just take them out and see what happens. Or, the other thing is change how they squat. If your hamstrings always feel like shit from low bar squatting, then maybe you should change the way you squat and just get stronger in a different way. Just remember, training has a lot of different parts in there, and if one part is affecting the other one, you have to choose, right? Which way, if you want to maintain that and just deal with the consequences. But yeah, I'd cut out the hypers and RDLs and just see how you feel. See how you feel. MB, I don't know what that means. It goes from 4 days per week on the first phase, and then it goes to 3 days per week for that last 2 phases. I was just wondering if you could do 2 days per week for all the phases. I still don't understand what you're saying there. Listen, if you want to do Cryptea 2 days a week, that's fine. The cycle would take longer. Yeah, you could do it 2 days a week. I think that's what you're asking. Again, but you don't do all 4 days in 2 days. That's stupid, right? I hope that's not what you're asking. Like you're going to do squat and bench in the same day. That's ridiculous. Yeah, so you could do squat on one day and again, bench on the other day and deadlift on the other day and press or bench on that other day and just keep on working. Yes, you could do that. Zao says, thank you, Jim. I'll keep that in mind. Hope I won't regret going down this teaching path. Listen, I don't think you're going to regret it if you don't lose your patience is going to be tested, but don't lose sight of what you're doing that for. I think it's easy to be, to lose hope, so to speak. And I'm not saying, it depends on where you teach, right? But I think at a certain point, if you're just kind of feel like you're just not doing any good, I think that starts wearing on you personally. I know many teachers do that. I just think you have to, even if you're, just here's the best way to say it, Zhao Shulu, is just don't let the bastards grind you down, because there's going to be plenty of kids that are going to test you and you feel like you're not doing anything. But there's a lot of good kids out there that need your help. And so maintain that, keep your focus on them, and don't worry about those other kids, because it's going to be horrible. Trust me, my parents were both teachers. It's constantly testing you, and I'm sure there's many years you feel like you're not doing any good, but you are doing good as long as you have those standards and you keep working for yourself and others to meet them. I don't know. I'm guessing on a 2 day per week cycle, you would complete each cycle after 6 weeks instead of 3. Yeah, you just go with the flow, Isaiah. Don't worry about that stuff. It's just going to take longer. I don't know what the hell this says. Should I do same assistance work in every session? Recovery issue? Depends on what you're doing and what you're, right? If you're in season, we do a lot of the same assistance work. In the off season, I think you should do as much variation as possible. So the answer is it would depend on whether or not you need to be recovered. So for example, if you're a police officer, and you're working these long shifts and you're tired all the time, I would a lot of these same assistance and barbell work. I wouldn't put much variety in there because you don't want to be sore. If you generally work a job that you can be sore and your life is going to be fine, then that's fine. You can do as much variations as possible. So there you go. Heavyweight. I appreciate you, buddy. I don't know why. I feel like we're like in World War II. You're patting me on the back. Or World War I coming out of the trench. Yeah, well, Wendler. I'm staying behind here. Fuck off. I don't know why I think that's funny. Boy, what movie did we watch? It was World War I. Shit. Oh, it was like One Long Shot. Oh, it was a tremendous movie. The young kids who had to deliver a message to the other side. Oh my God. I wish I remembered. Unbelievable movie though. Oh my God, was that tough to watch. Anyway, if anyone can remember a World War I movie that came out, I think it was on Netflix. Streaming on, I don't think it was a Netflix movie. But especially the opening trench scene was all shot in one shot. Almost the entire movie looks like it was done on 1 or 2 shots. It was an unbelievable movie. 2 young kids delivering a message to another group. Whatever. I don't remember. Awesome movie though. All right, here we go. Steve H says, I'm just starting my 3rd round of 5 through 1. My press and bench have improved. Squat and deadlift have stalled. I'm taking 90% of real RMs. Should I back off some more? Yeah, I always do. I would never go any higher than 85%, I'll be honest. And we just bomb the shit out of the main lifts a little bit. Not all the time, but man, we make sure our assistance is really dialed in. And we always do something for our legs that's really stupid. So we'll do some insane leg pressing for sets of 20 to 100. I know that sounds dumb. We always call it dumb leg work. Or you might, I don't know what you might need to do, Steve. Maybe you need to do more squatting. You can do boring but big. I've never felt like that helped anyone because everyone's legs just need to be stupid strong. And I think people ignore that. I think anyone that has done a lot of hard sports like wrestling for, maybe 10 or 15 years or football, when you're doing all these crazy stuff with your legs, you have that kind of dumb leg strength. And I think people miss that. And the world of lifting tells you, you can't do anything over 12 reps, man. You need to get those legs and lungs built up to a large thing. And I also think, again, I'm in the massive minority among people here in this industry. I think your abs and low back are huge parts of increasing your squat and deadlift. And as well as, with the deadlift, I think your upper back is a huge part of it too. And I personally think that 1-arm dumbbell rows, half your body weight for at least 35 reps I think should be standard. That should be your goal. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you should be able to do at least 35 reps. 20 is like the minimum, but I think striving for the minimum is not very good. So, but yeah, just try that. Or just the other thing, Steve, is if you know something works well for your squat, go ahead and do it. And just remember, guys, if 2 of your lifts are going up, that's awesome. That's awesome. Not every lift is going to go up at the same stuff. You're going to stall out, and that's just the way it goes. That's just the way it goes. And you're not going to be moving up all the time. All right. If that was the case, again, we'd all be squatting like 5 million pounds. So that's the way it goes. What's the gold tier advice for beginner who started 5 through program for the first time in the life? Follow the book, body build your assistance. Don't be in a rush to stall. There you go. Don't worry about your training max. It should be worry about doing good training sessions, not about the training max. When you start getting wrapped up in the training max and oh, my training max is only this. Who cares? All I care about is good training sessions and let the work do the work. Jim, quick question, man. Huge fan. First off, what's your chest routine? I don't know. I don't know if that's a joke. I don't know. I've never in my life done like body parts. So I'm not sure what that means, but I don't have a chest routine. We had bench day and we had press day and we had squat day and we had deadlift day and clean day. So 1917 is the movie. There we go. Yeah, it is fairly depressing. Yeah. David Toomey says, just wondering what your thoughts on doing walrus work some days using 3 to 4 sets of each to near failure rather than more circuits further from failure. If you want to try it, that's up to you, brother. I wouldn't do it. I mean, if you want to do it occasionally, but I don't know how you're going to do sets of squats to failure. You're going to be like doing 400 squats. It's going to take forever. So, I mean, if you want to do it on some lifts, I guess you can, but it's a lot of squats, brother, a lot of lunges. You're going to be lunging for like a quarter mile each time. So it's going to take a lot of time. So, holy shit, it's 11:15. Zhao Shulu, thank you, man. The movie I was talking about was 1917. Unbelievable movie. Highly recommended. And again, like Zhao Shulu says, it's depressing. It is a little depressing. But I personally, man, I think it's important that people see what shit was like for some people in war, because we tend to either glamorize it or we just put it out of our mind and understand Anyway, whatever. 5 sets of 10 deadlifts feels so exhausting. Yeah, well, you don't have to do 5 sets of 10 on deadlifts if you don't want to, right? And it's supposed to be exhausting. That's kind of how training goes, brother. Training sometimes sucks. That's why I'm so huge. Anyway. All right, let's go ahead and get the hell out of here. I will see you guys next week. Got a big game tonight. Hope anyone that's involved with any kind of sports stays healthy. Kids stay healthy. Everyone's good to go. As always, if you do something dumb this weekend, have fun. Don't kill yourself, but push yourself. Do something stupid conditioning-wise. Join the Jim Wendler Forum. I love you. I appreciate everyone that participated. Thank you guys so much. Heavyweight, I appreciate you, buddy. I'll see you